Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about how to improve your confidence and how to have more self-love, because there's no way to have confidence and hate yourself. There is no way. And I hear this so often where people are like, well, how do I have more confidence? How do I have more confidence? Well, let's dive into it. Why is self-love so important? Because it either helps your confidence or it hurts your confidence. Very simple. You cannot hate yourself and have this amazing confidence. You're not going to have confidence. You're going to have, a mask of confidence that isn't actually true in front of you. We know some people, when they fully love and accept themselves, they end up becoming some of the most confident people that you'll come across. So, the reason why that's important is because if you're confident, it's very easy to take action. If you're confident in yourself, in your abilities, and who you are, it is very easy to take action to create the life that you want to. But if you are not confident, it's really hard to take action. If you're not confident in your abilities, why would you ever do the hard stuff? Why would you ever take action towards the life that you want? Because you're thinking in the back of your head, I don't even know if I'm going to get it. But this also affects the way that you feel. This also affects the way that you carry yourself, the way that you walk into a room, the way that you answer the phone, the way that you ask somebody out, the way that you ask somebody for an order if you're a salesperson. It affects you in every single way that you could possibly think of. It will then in turn affect if you do or do not find the significant other that you want. It will then affect every interaction that you have with other people. It'll affect you in every single place. So when you hear about it, you're like, oh, self-love, that sounds real cutesy. Well, yeah, sure, it could. But really what it comes down to is you getting the life that you want to, you getting the partner that you want to, you getting the success, the happiness, the peace, the love, all of those things that you want to, or not. Because ultimately, you're going to attract somebody who is most likely on the same level as you, who is very similar to you in a lot of different ways. And if you're not confident, you won't be able to attract the person that you truly want because your energy just won't match. And men, I know you can relate to this. To attract a badass, confident, awesome woman, you have to have another level of confidence. Confident women don't go for unconfident men, right? So it all comes back to self-love though. So in today's episode, I'm going to be teaching you some tips on how to have more self-love, and in turn, that will turn into more confidence. But imagine with me for a moment, I want to take you through just a hypothetical situation, which is hypothetical, but then at the same time also still happens too much. Imagine a child who the whole time that they live with their parents, they're talked down to their entire lives. They're told that they're stupid, they're told that they're worthless, they're told that they're unlovable, they're told they'll never amount to anything. Day in, day out, day in, day out. They are told this most of the day, throughout the day, by their parents, by people around them, by their family. Stupid, worthless, unlovable, never amount to anything. It's terrible, isn't it? But it happens. Do you just think about for a second, how wounded do you think that child is going to be when they get older? Quite wounded, right? Do you think that that will affect them in some sort of way? Yeah, of course. Do you think that it will affect their confidence? Sure. Do you think it'll affect what they believe in themselves when they grow up? Yes, of course. You could see that, right? You could understand it. It all makes sense to you. I've got a very important question. What the fuck is the difference then between you and that child? Nothing. Don't think that because you're older that something is different. But there's a difference between that, a little bit of a difference between that child and you. That child, their abuser is somebody else. For a lot of people listening, you are your own abuser. You're the person saying you're worthless. You're the person that says you're unlovable. You're the person that says you'll never amount to anything. The abuser is you. That child can walk away eventually. They can move out of the house. And a lot of times when you live in an abusive situation, they do end up leaving. But you can't walk out of your own head. So you are in your own mental prison of talking trash to yourself a lot of times. I've been here before. I know many people who have been here before. And they think that by some way, I don't know why, they're helping themselves to improve when they talk down to themselves. If you talk negatively down to yourself, you are your abuser. And I always give this example. If you've been listening to me for years, you've heard me say this before. But my friend Jay Shetty did this really great video a few years ago where he sat down with these ladies. They were in their 20s and 30s. And he said, hey, here's a pen and paper. I want you to write down all of the things that you say to yourself, all the negative things you say to yourself, whatever they are. Just write them down. And they were writing them down. Made this big, huge list of all of these negative things. He said, okay, can you come with me for a second? And he takes them into a completely different room. And in that other room is their little sisters. So these women are in like their 20s and 30s. And they have these sisters that are like 8 to 12 probably. They have that piece of paper in front of him. He said, okay, now I want you to go ahead and I want you to say to them what you wrote down. And the look on these women's faces were like, appalled. No, I would never talk to my little sister that way. I would never talk to her that way. Okay, well, why do you talk to yourself that way? What's the difference? Is there a difference? Not really. Because if you beat yourself up and beat yourself up and beat yourself up and beat yourself up, of course your confidence is going to be low. Of course your self-love is going to be low. Why would you ever talk to yourself that way when you wouldn't talk to someone that you love that way? You would never talk to someone that you love the way that you talk to yourself in your head sometimes. Right? Another example I always love to give because it just makes so much sense. Imagine your best friend called you. She calls you up. She had this first date she was about to go on, and you're like, hey, call me when you get done. I want to hear about it. She's all excited about this little date that she found. Maybe it's a blind date. They've never seen each other. She shows up at the date. She calls you after, and you're all excited to hear the story. So you answer the phone. You're like, hey, how'd it go? And she's like, well, he was really nice. He was real cute. He was awesome. I was really starting to like him. And then just in the middle of the date, he was like, listen, I don't think this is going to work out. Maybe we should just stay friends. Would you ever say to her, well, you know what, Stacy, that does kind of make some sense. She's like, what? That does make sense. Because you have been putting on a little bit of weight. You aren't the smartest person in the world. You're actually pretty stupid. You're getting older. You're a little bit more wrinkly than you used to be. A little bit more chunky than you used to be. You're pretty stupid. And at the same time, I think you're pretty unlovable. Would you ever say that to your friend who is going through all of this stuff of this guy that she was just liking on this date? You never say that, right? So why do people say that to themselves? Why do you say that type of stuff to yourself? When you go in and you go on a date and then the person is interested and you're like, God, it makes sense because you're stupid, it's because you're fat, it's because you're unlovable, it's because you put on some weight, because you're getting older, blah, 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 blah. I'm sure there's somebody prettier out there that he would want to go for, right? Why do you do that to yourself if you wouldn't do it to a friend? It doesn't make any sense. If you don't get the promotion that you want to, or you're like, God, it's because you're stupid. It's because you need to get your shit together. It's because you're not good in front of people. You're just stupid. You're never going to be able to amount to anything. This is how a lot of people talk to themselves in their head. You might be one of them. But the question that I have for you is what and who is that benefiting? Hey, thanks so much for watching this video. If you love this video, please hit the like button. It helps more than you know. And if you want to see more videos like this, hit the subscribe button so that you can see some more and get notified the next time I post. What good is going to come from that? I have a really great friend of mine who used to just be the worst at talking trash to herself all of the time. And when she would tell me the stuff that she would say, I was like, what, you say that to yourself? You know how terrible that is? No wonder why her confidence was so low. And over time, it's been about 3 years, she's been on a self-love journey. And really what she's been doing, she's been growing and working on herself. To be honest, she's done some psychedelic journeys. She's done mushrooms, she's done ayahuasca, she's done some other stuff. Not saying those are necessary, but that's just telling you what she's worked on. Read a bunch of books, hired her own coach, started working on herself, and realized over time she started to let those go because they weren't helping her in any sort of way. But she used to look at herself in the mirror and just talk so much trash, right? So what do you say when you look in the mirror? Do you look at yourself and you're like, damn, you're looking fat, you got another lump, you're getting a little bit chunky, can't fit into your jeans anymore. Even if you are fit, you're like, yeah, you're just ugly, your hair looks like shit. Like, what do you say to yourself when you're looking in the mirror? Or do you look at yourself and you're like, damn, you're looking good. Hey, you know what? You got a little bit extra weight, but you are in the process of getting the best shape of your life. I believe in you. I know you can do this. I love you. There was a time when I didn't know that I had self-love issues when I was younger, but I do remember I was probably about 20, 21 years old, and we had this guy come and speak to us at the company that I worked at. He said, if you want to see massive changes in your life, just go ahead and tell yourself, I love you in the mirror every single day 100 times. And at that point in time, I was broke, had no success, and I was like, I'll do whatever the hell anybody successful tells me to do. So I was like, okay, I'll just do it. So I would just sit there and I would just say, you look yourself in the eye and you're like, I love you, I love you, I love you. And it gets kind of awkward. And you're like, why am I so awkward? I'm literally just talking to myself. This is interesting. You start to notice things about yourself. And what happens is you start to do it over and over and over and over and over again. What you start to realize is that your story in your head, if you do talk negatively to yourself, slowly starts to change, because the I love you is starting to literally be so much heavier. There's so much more. There's 100 of those every single day compared to all the other stuff that you say. And over time, over and over and over and over again, you're starting to get a real reprogramming of your own mind. Because all too often, what happens is we get caught up in comparison versus just being like, hey, I just love you the way that you are. But the problem with comparison and seeing the other people on Instagram and seeing what other people's lives are is comparison is the thief of all joy. It's not that you don't love your body. You don't love your body because you're looking on Instagram. You tell yourself you're getting fat because you're comparing yourself to a Photoshop model on Instagram. You talk trash to yourself because your friend from high school who you haven't seen in 16 years just bought a massive house. Or you're pissed off that you're driving a 17-year-old Kia and you're thinking about the 18-year-old Bitcoin millionaire who's putting up pictures of his brand new Lamborghini. And you're stuck in this comparison. And comparison is not a bad thing. Depends on what you're comparing. That's what actually matters. People are always like, comparison is so terrible. Well, it depends on what you're comparing. Humans compare. If you think of where this goes back to years and years, 100,000 years ago, if we see an animal flying at us from a distance, a big, huge animal on the ground running towards us, we need to compare. Okay, how big is that animal compared to me? Is it smaller than me? Is it something I need to be worried about? How fast is this animal coming? Do I need to run from it? Do I have enough time to run from it? Do I need to run up a tree instead of run from this animal in a different direction? And comparison is something that actually kept us alive in some ways. It still exists nowadays, but it doesn't mean that we need to compare ourselves with other people and then make ourselves feel like crap, because that sort of comparison is the thief of all joy. So when you look at your life, you are where you are. That's a fact. You weigh as much as you weigh. That's a fact. Your bank account has as much as it has. That's a fact. You can't change that in any way right now. The only thing you can change is where you go from here forward. What you do from here to the next moment. I do know one fact. It will be a lot harder to go to the gym, to stop procrastinating, to work hard on yourself when you feel like crap. And guess what? When you talk trash to yourself, doesn't that make you feel like crap? So if you actually want to change yourself, you should probably be on your own side. You should probably start motivating yourself, start talking better to yourself. But you have to start thinking about this. How much better do you feel when you talk better to yourself? How much better do you feel when you think better of yourself? How much better do you feel when you get I can give an example for a guy. Ladies, I'm sure you have the exact same example, but in a different way. But men probably know this feeling. I know that when I have a really nice suit and I go out, I feel differently about myself. What if you felt that way all of the time? How could you bring that in more? How does that make you feel to be like that? Could you do more of that for yourself? Imagine if you had that feeling all day. Imagine what you could do if you had that feeling all day, because ultimately you have to be your biggest fan. You have to be. When no one else believes in you, you have to believe in yourself. You have to be your biggest fan, but most people are the biggest critic. And being your biggest critic is not going to help you in any sort of way. You have to get on your own side, be your biggest fan, and when you do that, you'll start to have more people come onto your side and be a big fan of yours. I used to always do talks, and there was one thing I used to do. It was really interesting. When I really started to see that a lot of people had self-love issues, is I used to give talks, and I would be in front of everybody and I'd say, okay, I'm going to give you 60 seconds. I want you to write down everything that's not good about yourself, that you don't like about yourself, everything you hate about yourself. Ready, set, go. And people would furiously write so many things, what they don't like. They don't like their hair, they don't like their ass, they don't like their legs, they don't like how they fit in jeans, they don't like blah, 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 blah. They don't like their intelligence, all kinds of things. Massive list of all of the things they don't like about themselves. Okay, time's up, 60 seconds. People would have these huge lists, it was crazy. And I would say, okay, another 60 seconds, go ahead and write down everything that you love about yourself. It was like crickets. People come up with like 4 things. They come up with like 75 things on the things they hate about themselves. 34 things about the things they hate about themselves. They come up with like 4 things they love about themselves. People are too busy focusing on the things they don't like about themselves versus the things they do like about themselves. When you love something, you want to help it and you want to improve it. If you don't love yourself, you don't want to help yourself and improve yourself. If you hate your body, you can change your body by hating it, or you can love your body so much that you want to take better care of it. If you focus on shit, you will get more shit. There's actually, The Rock has a quote. And the quote is, when you focus on you, you grow. When you focus on shit, shit grows. And you got to start thinking to yourself, what am I focusing on throughout the day? You know, and make a list. Do this for yourself. If you want to try to help yourself get rid of these things, make a list of all of the things that you say to yourself. All of your fears, all of your limiting beliefs, all the things you hate about yourself. Make this massive list, look at it, take a lighter, and set it on fire. Now, make sure you do this in a safe place. Throw it inside of your bathtub or whatever it is. Don't burn your house down and blame me for your house burning down. But look at all of your fears, write them all down, get everything down on pen and paper. Take a pen and paper, write it all down, and then take your lighter and light it on fire. And tell yourself, that's the last time that I can say that to myself. From now on, I'm going to be my best friend. From now on, I'm going to be my biggest fan and not my biggest critic. From now on, I'm going to talk positively to myself because I need someone in my corner all day, every day, and that needs to be me. Because ultimately, what you focus on, you get more of. If you focus on you, you'll get more growth. If you focus on shit, you'll get more shit. Today, we're going to be talking about 5 keys to have more confidence. So, let's not mess around. Let's just dive in. The first key to have more confidence is to change the way that you talk to yourself. I was reading a book last week, and there was something that I saw that was like, oh my God, I need to get my pen and underline this. And the phrase that was said is that nobody has ever abused you more in your entire life than you've abused yourself. And so I'm going to ask you guys this question. And we've been through you've probably been through some stuff in your life. Some of you guys have been through some stuff. Some of you guys have been through a lot of stuff. But that thing that happened to you, those things that happened to you, happened. They were an event that happened. But when we talk about abusing ourselves, how often do we abuse ourselves over and over and over and over again? We can think about how we screwed up an event that was 5 years ago, and we're still abusing ourselves for a mistake that we made 5 years ago, and we're not even the same person we were 5 years ago. No one has abused you more in your life than you've abused yourself. So think about that. What do you say to yourself? If you've been listening to me for a while, there's one thing that I love to bring up in the way that you talk to yourself. You would never talk to someone that you love the same way that you talk to yourself. Why is that? Why are we so hard on ourselves? If we want to have more confidence, shouldn't we focus on figuring out a way to be our biggest best friend, to be our biggest cheerleader? There's no way for me to be a confident person, but then talk trash to myself all day long. Why? Because I'm going to create the reality of what's going on in my head. If I'm constantly talking down to myself at all points in time, how is it possible for me to walk into a room and be like, I'm the most confident person here? It's impossible. And I understand that this is a habit. The way you talk to yourself is a habit. You can't change it overnight. It's something that you're used to doing. You've heard me say before, you can't change your first thought, but you can always change your second thought. Start becoming more aware of how maybe you do verbally abuse, maybe you don't know how to speak like I don't. Verbally abuse yourself. You can't change it overnight, but you can start becoming more aware of it. And when you become aware of it, you can fix it. You can't fix something that you're not aware of. And so if you notice yourself, okay, I have been a little bit hard on myself for something that I did yesterday. What I want you to do is, instead of being hard on yourself and finding all of your flaws, because you have a lot of them, we all do. That's what makes us human, because nobody is perfect. There's never such thing as perfect. There's no such thing as a perfect anything. Perfect person, perfect circumstance, perfect anything. Everything is imperfect. It's like the ancient, I think it's Japanese, wabi-sabi is the beauty in the imperfection. Can you start to find the beauty in your imperfection? Can you start to go, yeah, you know what, I did mess it up yesterday, but you know what, I'm still pretty awesome. I'm still a great person. I still treat my friends really well. I still, have been working on my legs and I got a really great butt. Whatever it is that you've been working on. How can you find out what's good with you versus always searching for the flaws? The first key to changing your self-confidence and have more confidence is to change the way you talk to yourself, because you're going to create the reality that you constantly have going on in your head. Second key is to follow through. Follow through. And not just follow through on the big things in life. Follow through on the small things, especially follow through on the small things. Why? Because the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. Are you going to be perfect? Absolutely not. You're not going to be perfect. You're going to mess up a lot of stuff. You're not going to follow through all the time. You're not going to do everything that you say you're going to do. But as long as you're doing more than that, like if you're more than 50% and following through, maybe you're at 51%, maybe tomorrow you're at 52, and next week you're at 57. You start getting a little bit more confident in your follow through. You start becoming better. And you start getting this feeling of, when I say I'm going to do something, I freaking do it. What would it look like? What would your life look like? What would your reality look like? What would your relationships look like? What would your friendships look like? What would your bank account look like? What would your business look like? What would your family look like if you were impeccable with your words and you were impeccable with your actions? How would your life change? Because here's the reason why following through is so important. Think about your subconscious. Your subconscious is working at all points in time. It's running in the background at all points in time. Every single time that you don't follow through, that's a little bit of your subconscious going, oh, there's Rob that didn't follow through again. Oh, there's Rob that didn't follow through again. Oh, there's Rob. He said he was going to do 3 sets. He decided to give up on himself and do 4. Actually, I'm sorry, that's backwards. He said he was going to do 4 sets. He decided to give up on himself and do 3. Your subconscious is constantly watching you in the background. It knows when you don't follow through. And so if you were to think of your subconscious as the little guy that's in the background, just, stacking dominoes. And on the left-hand side, he's got all the times you don't follow through. And on the right-hand side, he's got all the times you do follow through. Which one is he stacking more? Because guess what? If you're stacking more of the not follow through, I guarantee you, absolutely 100%, your confidence is going to be lower. But if you start stacking the follow through and start stacking the follow through and start stacking the follow through, your confidence will raise, because your subconscious is going, you know what? I'm starting to notice when Rob says he's going to do something, he freaking does it. That's where confidence comes from. Showing up for yourself when no one else is there. Not showing up for other people. Sure, that counts and that matters, but showing up for yourself. Think about your subconscious when you don't follow through, and then think about your subconscious when you do follow through. It's like lifting heavier weight. Your subconscious is like, I can do this. I've been doing this before. You want me to do that little thing? Did you see what I did yesterday? Got it. Don't worry about it. That's where confidence comes from. Confidence comes from showing up for yourself, for following through, from being impeccable with your word and doing what you say you're going to do. Step number 2 is to follow through. Step number 3 is to force yourself to get better results. Focus on going just a little bit further than normal. I have the law of 10%, I like to call it. Just do 10% more in everything that you do. That's it. If you are a salesperson and you have to do 100 cold calls a day, and that's required, do 110. It's only 10 phone calls. I've sat down many, many times and done 100 cold calls in a day. Many, many, many times. So it's possible to do, but once you get to that 100, it's like, all right, I could stop right now, or I could do 10 more, right? If you do 10 more a day, Monday through Friday for an entire year, that's 2,600 extra cold calls a year. How much different would your business be, whatever it is that you sell, whatever it is that you do, if you did 10 extra phone calls? If you did 2,600 extra phone calls over the course of a year, that's 26. If you're doing 100 cold calls a day normally, and then you add an extra 10 Monday through Friday for a year, 2,600 extra cold calls, that's like adding 26 days of cold calls into your schedule. How much different would your mindset be? How much different would your bank account be? How much different would your business be if you just did 10 more? It's only 10% more, 100 to 110. If you say you're going to run 1 mile, run 1.1 miles. Let's just say Monday through Friday. You decide that you want to run 1 mile Monday through Friday, and instead you decide to go 10% more, and you do 1.1 miles. And you do it Monday through Friday for an entire year, that's 26 extra miles a year. How different would your body be if you did 26 more miles this year? And it's not that much. It's not 26 at once. It's not an entire marathon at one time. It's just an extra 1/10 of a mile. You can do that. Just add 10%. Instead of going for 10 reps, add 10% more. 10% of 10 is 1. So all you have to do is 11 reps. That's thousands of extra reps per year. How different would your body be if you did thousands of extra reps, maybe tens of thousands of extra reps every single year? Doesn't seem like much. It's only 1 extra rep. It's 10% more. It won't kill you, but it will change you. That is the value of doing just a little bit better than what you're currently doing. Just 10% more. Also, it helps your mindset around finishing and going further. instead of stopping just before, instead of stopping at 9 reps when you're supposed to go to 10, when you go to 11, you're like, I'm showing up for myself. I'm showing up for myself. And if there's that little guy in your subconscious that's just stacking dominoes, your freaking side that you're showing up for yourself, those dominoes are going to get stacked. So that's number 3, get better results by going 10% more. Step number 4 is to push yourself through fear. There's this weird misconception that I find with people, that people who have not been as successful as they want to be in life, think that successful people are fearless, think that they have no fear, think that they're just ready to go at all points in time. No. Here's the difference. Successful people have fear. They feel the fear, they just learn to stop listening to it. A successful person and an unsuccessful person still have pretty close to the same amount of fear. The difference is who listens to it and who doesn't. And the reason why is because I think that the most successful people in the world, most successful athletes in the world, know your fear is showing you the edge of your comfort zone. When you're feeling a physical feeling of fear, it is a physical manifestation of your fear. That is your comfort zone, because you're not going to feel fear in your comfort zone, right? If you're sitting at your house watching Netflix, you're on Instagram, there's no fear going on there. You're doing something that you've done hundreds and hundreds of times most likely. But when you feel fear, that is a physical manifestation of your comfort zone. That's a beautiful thing. That is your mind, your body, your reality showing you, hey, Rob, you're on the edge of your comfort zone. And so most people, when they feel fear, they start to lean back. They go, oh, this isn't good. This isn't right. I'm not supposed to be doing this. I'm not supposed to be here. Fear shows me I'm in the wrong place. In reality, fear is showing you that you're in the right place. And instead of leaning back, you need to lean into fear. Fear is beautiful. Fear, the physical feeling of fear, is the physical manifestation of your comfort zone. It is showing you what you need to push past. It is showing you where you need to go. It is showing you, it is one of the biggest gifts you could possibly get, is to find out where your comfort zone is by feeling fear. Feel fear and do it anyways, okay? That's step number 4, push through the fear. And step number 5 is to stack your small wins. If you've been listening to my podcast for a long time, you know I'm a really big fan of like the smallest wins you could possibly get. I want you to stack as many wins as you possibly can throughout the day. I'm not talking about, closing a $100,000 deal, even though that's amazing, that's great. You'll probably be super excited about it. I'm talking about the little things, because it's the little things that matter. The tiny little wins. You've heard me say it. Try to get as many wins as you can first thing in the morning. When your alarm clock goes off, wake up. Don't hit the snooze button. When you get out of bed, make that damn thing. When you use a dish, clean it right after it's done. When you're trying on clothes before you're about to go out and party, whatever it is that you do, maybe go on a little date, trying to look sexy, instead of leaving all of your clothes on the bed that you tried on to find the perfect outfit, put those clothes away. It might take you 2 minutes, but it's a small win. It's a small win of going, you know what? I'm showing up for myself. It's a small win of going, you know what? I'm stacking those dominoes. How many small wins can you come up with throughout the entire day? Think about that. Next time you're going through your day, today, when you get off, stop listening to this, whenever you're done, and you go through your day, think about how many small wins you could stack. Walking into the gym is a small win. Not even finishing the workout. Walking into the gym is a small win. And small wins add up in your subconscious. You have to make sure that you're winning more than you're losing. It's like the phrase in Atomic Habits. If you think of your habits and what you're doing as voting, if you're running for governor, you don't have to get all of the votes. You've just got to get the majority of the votes. You got to get 51% of the votes in order to become governor. So think of every single action as a vote for the person that you want to become. Look at your actions throughout the day and ask yourself, am I voting in the right direction? Am I voting for the Rob that I want to build? Am I voting for the Rob that, is going to keep me in my comfort zone? Ask yourself this question: is what I'm doing right now getting me closer to or further from my goals? Right now, in this very moment, what are you doing? You're listening to this. Is it getting you closer to your goals? It might be because you're building up your mindset, but you got to take action eventually. I love that you're listening to this podcast, but you got to get off your ass at some point and start taking action. Hopefully you're taking action while you're listening to this podcast. That's like a double whammy. That's perfect, right? You're working on your mindset and you're conquering some stuff out in the real physical world. Small wins add up in your subconscious. You got to make sure that every single action that you take is adding up to a win. There's nothing worse than knowing that you should have shown up for yourself and you didn't. There's nothing worse than knowing that you could have done something better and you didn't. And you have that feeling of, damn it, I could have done it. I know I could have done it. I know I could have showed up for myself. I know I could have done this, but I didn't. I backed away. And that's something that I do too often. And instead of judging yourself, you look at it very subjectively and you say, okay, I did it. Or very objectively, and you look at, oh, I did it. That's all right, I did it. Look at it objectively. Don't put any emotion to it and go, next time I won't do that thing that I did before. I'm going to show up for myself. I'm going to get little tiny wins. I'm going to start stacking them up. I'm going to stack up those little wins in my subconscious. Just have this visual reminder. Your subconscious is like a guy that's in the background. He's got a stack of dominoes. He's putting some on the left, he's putting some on the right. The ones on the left are all of the times that you didn't show up for yourself, or you gave up early, you said you were going to do something, you didn't do it. All of the ones on the right is the times when you showed up, the small wins, when you woke up and you said you're going to wake up, when you took the cold shower instead of the hot shower, you did everything that you needed to do to show up for yourself. That is exciting. Think of your subconscious, the guy stacking dominoes, and think of it this way. If you want to create the life that you want, if you want to create the confidence that you want, that little guy needs to stack more dominoes on the right-hand side of all the times you followed through for yourself. Today we're going to be talking about what is self-discipline. I think that self-discipline is thought of as kind of a bad thing for a lot of people. Like everybody wants discipline, but they see discipline as a bad thing. And so we're going to dive into the subject of self-discipline, how to be more disciplined, and I'm going to talk about more of what it is as well. So at its simplest form, there's two things that I really see self-discipline being. Number one is doing what you say you will do. That's the first thing that I say is self-discipline. And the second thing is doing what you need to do even when you don't want to do it. Right? So self-discipline is going out and doing what you say you're going to do, number one, and then going out and doing what needs to be done even when you don't want to do it, especially when you don't want to do it. And I want to cover the word discipline first, because when we think of the word discipline, like if you discipline your dog, that means your dog has done something bad. Right? If you discipline your child, that means your child has done something bad. So I want to pull the word discipline out and change your perception of it, because ultimately I think that we all have a bad connotation of discipline. And if our brain subconsciously has a bad connotation towards something, we are going to try to avoid it. And what I'm going to talk about today is ultimately how self-discipline is actually the key to self-love. And that's what I'm going to tell you about today and what we're going to dive into, because most people, when they think of self-discipline, think, oh my God, I want to be disciplined, but I don't think I can be disciplined. That's too hard for me to be disciplined. And that's what I'm going to talk about today, is how the key to loving yourself deeper is to actually be unlocked through self-discipline. Because ultimately, the core of that, if you really dive into it, you never need to be disciplined to do something that's bad for you, right? You need discipline to do something that's good for you. Like you don't need discipline to eat a pizza. You don't need discipline to sleep in. You don't need discipline to sit on the couch and do nothing, right? You need discipline to do the things that are good for you. And if you're doing the things that are good for you, ultimately that is a way to cultivate self-love. So for instance, self-love is not eating that pizza when you know you shouldn't. Self-love is to have the self-discipline to eat something that's healthier, because ultimately it's better for your body. Self-discipline is not hitting the snooze button and waking up, because you know that if you wake up when you wanted to, you're going to be able to start your day off right. And if you start your day off right, it'll end up becoming a better day. It's the self-discipline to do that. It's the self-love, knowing that when you do that, you will ultimately be better. Self-love and self-discipline is not taking it easy after a hard day of work, but to go to the gym because you made a contract with yourself that you will go to the gym after work. You know, it's about doing what you say you're going to do and not going, you know what, I had a long day, I'm going to take the day off, right? It's the discipline to do, as I said in the beginning, what you don't want to do, especially in the times when you're like, I really don't want to do it. It's to be able to push past what you actually think that you can do. And that's the important thing. It's to do what you say you're going to do, especially when you have a contract with yourself. Not just to do what you say you're going to do when other people are involved, but if, like the last example that I just gave you, if you said, I'm going to go to the gym today at 6 o'clock after work, and you have a long day at work and you don't go to the gym, that has nothing to do with anybody else. That's you lying to yourself. That is you breaking a contract with yourself. And when you break a contract with yourself, that's not coming from a loving state, right? There's no self-love in breaking that contract with yourself and going, you know what? You had a long day at work. Go ahead and pick up some pizza and ice cream. Go watch some Netflix. No. Self-discipline is needed to do the things that are good for you, to wake up early, to meditate, to work out, to eat healthy, to do all of those things that cultivate a foundation for you to build a better version of you. Self-discipline is not breaking promises to yourself, because ultimately it's very easy for people to stay accountable when someone else is relying on them. It's very easy to go, you know what, these people are depending on me, I'm going to put in the work. But then to let ourselves slip when it's something that just requires us. For some reason, it's very easy for people to do things for other people, but it tends to be very hard for them to do something for themselves. And if you truly love yourself, you will develop the self-discipline to get done whatever it is that you need to get done to create the life that you want. And so self-discipline, more than anything else, is not breaking the promises that you have made to yourself, because ultimately that's what matters more than anything else. And it doesn't have to be just taking action too. Like I said, eating healthy or going to the gym or any of that stuff. It could be literally meditating, doing absolutely nothing, but sitting there and focusing on your breath with your eyes closed and allowing your body just to come down from its, heightened state, because you want your body to relax, because you want your mind to relax. And because ultimately if you meditate, every single morning for those 10 or 15, 20 minutes, that you're going to go into your day a better version of yourself, a calmer, more gentler, more loving version of yourself. And when you are a better version of yourself, you are presenting that better version of yourself to everyone that's around you. So not only do you benefit from the meditation, but everybody else benefits. See, the thing that's interesting about self-discipline is you benefit a lot from it, but everybody else around you benefits as well. There is no loser in self-discipline. The only time when there's a loser is when you let yourself off the hook when you shouldn't. You need to stop breaking promises to yourself, because ultimately you matter more than anybody else in your life. Now, I understand how this works because I've done this many times. I've coached thousands of people. Most people at this point, like mothers or fathers, say, well, I'm not the most important person in my life. My children or my spouse or whatever it is the most important person in my life. I can't say that I am, right? There's no way. That would be selfish. That would be narcissistic. I can't say that I am the most important person in my life. Yes, you can and you should. And if you don't, you're completely down the wrong path. I'm not saying ignore your children. What I'm saying is have the self-discipline and the self-love to work on yourself, because we know if you say your children are the most important people in your life, if you are the best version of yourself, are you going to show up as a better parent for them? You are. So if you really truly love them, shouldn't you really truly be loving and working on yourself even more? Because then you're going to show up better for them. If you really truly love your spouse, shouldn't you work on yourself even more so that you can show up as the best version of yourself? Because here's the thing, the better that you show up, the better that they will be. And they will grow and become better from you being better. So you can't break the promises to yourself, but then give everything to everybody else. Because here's the way, it seems like a catch-22 for most people. When you work harder on yourself, you show up better for everybody else that's around you. So self-discipline is not breaking those promises to yourself. So what is self-discipline? Self-love is self-discipline. The not breaking promises to yourself are self-discipline. Doing what you say you're going to do is self-discipline. I'm not saying be hardcore on yourself all day, every single day, because that's not sustainable. If you want to go out and have a pizza every once in a while, I'm not saying don't ever have a pizza. What I'm saying is we know where the limit is. We know when there's a line that we're crossing that we shouldn't be. Where it's like, well, this is my 3rd pizza of the week. Well, that's probably a problem. Oh, this is my 10th beer of the night. Oh, that's probably a problem. This is my 37th day sleeping in. Oh, that's probably a problem. right? I'm not saying be so hardcore on yourself. What I'm saying is know where the limit is and don't allow yourself to keep passing that limit. Don't allow yourself to keep passing that line, right? You have to have the discipline to hold yourself accountable when you need to. Because if you truly, truly love yourself, you will have if you love yourself and come from a place of love, you will have the discipline that you need to make yourself better. What we all want to do is to become the best version of ourselves. But we can't become that best version of ourselves unless there's some self-discipline there. That's what we have to realize. Ultimate fulfillment is not success in cars and clothes and money and houses, these massive mansions and Ferraris in the driveway. That's not ultimate success and fulfillment. Ultimate fulfillment is you becoming the highest version of yourself in this lifetime, the most actualized version of yourself in this lifetime. That is ultimate fulfillment. And anything that holds you back from that is in the way. Because the better that you are, the most perfect actualized version of yourself is going to go out and serve the world much higher than the version of you that's not the highest version of yourself. So you have to think about that. If you truly want to change the world, you've got to focus on yourself. Because then when you focus on yourself, you go out and present that version of yourself and you're much better. When we are better, we serve the world at a higher level. We serve our family at a higher level. We serve every being that we come in contact with at a higher level. When we think about ourselves, and we truly, this is the interesting thing, is a lot of people think, well, I don't have the self-love and the self-discipline that I truly want because when I look in the mirror, I don't love my body. And so people want to have a better body, but they don't develop the discipline to get that better body. And they think, well, if I had that better body, let me rewind. If I had that better body that I truly want, I feel like I love myself more. But here's the thing. The key to getting that better body is to love yourself more now. Because here's the thing. If you love somebody, you'll do anything that you can to help them out, don't you? If they need you, you'll do anything that you can to help somebody out that you truly, truly love, right? But the question is, do you truly, truly love yourself? If you don't, that's the reason why you're not taking the action that you need to. You don't have self-discipline to do what you need to do because you don't have the self-love that you truly need to have. Let me give you an example. If I have my body and I want to be the best version of it, I'm going to need to eat healthy. I'm going to need to work out. I'm going to need to do the things I need to do to take care of my body. Why? Why do I work out so hard and eat so healthy? Because I truly love my body. So no matter what your body looks like right now, you can't think that you'll love yourself more when you get to losing 50 pounds. You can't think, oh my God, when I finally get to this weight or look like this or fit in that bikini, I will finally love myself. No, you have to start from a place of self-love. And the more that you love your body and love yourself, the more that you will truly want to take care of it. And you say, if I love my body, do I want to put this food into it, whatever this food is, this pizza or this, my third pizza of the week or this 7th beer that I'm drinking? If I truly love myself and I truly love my body, do I want to do that? No, I don't. I want to put into it the best things I possibly can. Would you go ahead and just allow your child to eat 7 pizzas every single, week, every single night eat a pizza? No, because it's not good for them. Why would you allow yourself to essentially do the same types of things? So self-love is not a destination. Self-love is a starting point. And when you truly love yourself, self-discipline ends up building itself in there. Because you go, you know what? I do love myself. I'm going to go ahead and work out so that I can take care of myself. I'm going to eat healthier so I can take care of myself. I'm going to drink more water so I can take care of myself. I'm going to read so I can take care of myself. I'm going to meditate so I can take care of myself. I'm going to stop sleeping in and I'm going to create a morning routine so I can take care of myself because I truly love myself. And when you start from a place of self-love, self-discipline is much easier to get. And that's the thing that most people don't think about. Self-love creates self-discipline. Love yourself first, then you will have the discipline to take care of yourself. So, what is self-love? What is self-discipline? Self-love is self-discipline. Keeping the contracts and the promises that you want to with yourself. And you said you were going to do. Keeping those promises is self-discipline. Doing what you say you will do is self-discipline. And doing what you need to do, especially when you don't want to do it, is also self-discipline. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be talking about how to have more self-love. How to have more self-love, how to have more confidence, and how to change the way that you speak to yourself. And I hear this way too often. One of the most requested things that I get from people who send me messages on Instagram, and I look through all of my Instagram messages that I get from people, hundreds of them a day usually, and I get to see what people say about themselves and about what they think about themselves and what questions they have about the world. And then when I see something that happens a lot, what I do is I take that and then I go, okay, I should do an episode on this. So if you do want to send me an Instagram message, let me know what you want me to do episodes on. You can message me, Rob Dial Jr., ROBDIALJR. But let's talk about self-love, because that's one of the messages I get the most. And first off, let's talk about why self-love is so important, because self-love either hurts your confidence or it helps your confidence. And that in turn, depending on how confident you are as a person, changes the actions that you take or the actions that you do not take. So I'll give you an example. Let's say that someone's a very confident person and they want to go and start a new business. If they're confident in themselves, they're going to be confident in their business, and they're going to take some actions that somebody who isn't confident probably wouldn't take. They're going to believe in themselves more. When things get hard, they're not going to give up. When things get hard, they're going to keep going. When things get hard, or when they fail or something messes up or they do have a bad month in their business, they're going to sit there and they're going to speak to themselves in a way to build themselves up versus tear themselves down. And so the confidence comes from the way that you speak to yourself. The way that you speak to yourself builds confidence or tears it down. And that in turn affects all of the actions that you do or do not take. So it also just affects the way that you feel and the way that you carry yourself, doesn't it? At every moment, the way that you feel and the way that you carry yourself is changed by how confident you are and how you speak to yourself. It affects the way that you interact with everyone in the world around you, which then in turn affects, for instance, whether you do or do not get a significant other. It also affects who the significant other is that you attract, right? Because you attract someone who is like you. So if you want a really awesome guy who's super confident, guess what you need to be? If you want a really awesome girl who's really confident, guess what you need to be? You need to be confident as well. And that comes from the way that you speak to yourself. You won't be an unconfident person and somehow attract someone who's super confident. That energy just won't match. And men, I know you can relate. I can relate. To attract a badass, confident woman, you have to be on a whole other level of confidence. Because I know that most women aren't attracted to someone who's very confident in themselves, and a badass woman is not going to be attracted to someone who is weaker or who doesn't believe in themselves. And all of that comes back down to that one thing that we're talking about today, which is self-love. So in today's episode, I'm going to be teaching you some tips on how to have more self-love, how to speak to yourself, and how to build yourself up more than anything else. And I want you to kind of imagine this with me, right? I'm going to take you on a journey, and I want you to just think about the energy behind this journey, okay? Imagine with me for a minute a child who is talked down to their entire lives, right? Let's say that their parents are terrible parents. And this child hears everything. They get told that they're stupid. You're so stupid. Why do you do that? They hear it all day long. You're stupid. They hear they're worthless all day long. They hear they're unlovable. They hear that they're fat. They hear that they'll never amount to anything. Day in, day out, most of the day, the things that they hear from their parents are how worthless, how fat, how stupid, how ugly they are, right? That's terrible, isn't it? But it happens. Do you know how wounded that child will be if they keep hearing these things over and over and over and over again? They're going to be wounded. How do you think that will affect them? How do you think it will affect what they believe in themselves when they grow up? Do you think that a child that's told that all day long by somebody is going to grow up and be super confident and take the actions towards the life that they want? Or do you think that they're probably going to have a lot of trauma and things to work through all the time? They're probably going to have a lot to work through, right? How do you think it's going to affect them? What do you think that they're going to believe? You can see this, right? You can see how somebody speaking to a child is going to change the way that they feel, think about themselves. You understand it, right? What the is the difference between that child and you? There is no difference. If you talk negatively to yourself, you might think, oh, well, that child though, they're young, they're impressionable. Guess what? You're extremely impressionable. And guess what? You're probably, just so you know, if you want to know statistically, the average person says thinks anywhere between 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day. And 90% of those are negative. This is statistical averages. 60 to 80,000 thoughts every single day, and 90% of them are negative. That's more than the child's being talked down to. So don't think that there's a difference just because you're older. There is no difference, right? Don't think that because of the fact that you're older, because you've had more life experience, that you're gonna be able to get through it easier. There is very little difference between that child and their abuser. The only difference is that you are your abuser. Let me say that again for everyone in the back. You are your abuser. If you talk down to yourself, you're your abuser. You are the abuser. The empowering thing about the child is a child can at least walk away. You can't walk away from the thoughts in your head. So guess what you're gonna have to start to work on? That's right, the thoughts in your head. If you talk down to yourself, if you talk negatively to yourself, you are your own abuser. There's a really great video, maybe you've heard me talk about it before, but my friend Jay Shetty put it up. And he sat down with these women that were in their 20s and 30s. And he gave them a pen and paper and he said, hey, I want you to write down all of the negative things that you say to yourself, whether it's out loud or whether it's in your head. Has them write all these things down, all of the negative stuff. They write it down. Just make a list, anything that you say about what you think about yourself, the way that you look, the way that you look in your clothes, the way that you fit, in your clothes, the stuff that you say when you don't work out. Just write all the things you could possibly think of that you typically say to yourself on a weekly basis. So they write all of this stuff down. And he says, okay, go ahead and come with me real quick. And he takes them into another room. And they don't realize it, but in that other room is their little sister. So these women that are 20, 30 years old have these little sisters that are like 10, 11, 12, 13, really impressionable age, right? And he sits them down and he says, okay, I want you to look at your sister and I want you to say to her what you just wrote down. And the look on these women's faces are like petrified. They're terrified. There's no way. They would never, ever say something to their little sisters that they have on that piece of paper. They wouldn't say those things. So if they wouldn't say it to them, why are they saying it to themselves? Now I know there's people out there listening and there's light bulbs going off. You would never talk to someone that you love the way that you talk to yourself sometimes. So why do you do it? Let's say one of your friends sends you a text message and she's like, hey, just had a really bad first date. Do you have time for a call? And you're like, yeah, absolutely. She calls you, okay? She's like, oh, I just feel really down on myself because of the fact that I was at this first date and I really started to like this guy. And then at the end of the date, I wanted to go further. And he's like, listen, I'm just not really interested. I think you're nice, but I'm not really interested. And I don't really think that we should go on a second date. Would you then say to your friend, well, yeah, of course he said that because you're ugly. Of course he said that because you're stupid. Of course he said that because you probably don't fit in that dress very well. Of course you said that. Do you want to know why? Because you got that pimple that's on your nose. Of course he said that because everybody tends to walk away from you. Of course he said that because you're unlovable. Of course he said that because this and this and this and this. Would you ever say that to one of your best friends after they're going through something like somebody not being interested in them in the first date? Would you? You wouldn't? So why would you say it to yourself? Think about that. Put yourself in those situations. Maybe you haven't had that exact same situation happen to you, but maybe you've had some sort of situation where someone that you're interested in is not interested in you. And so what do? Instead of building yourself up, you break yourself down. Of course he's not interested in you. Of course she's not interested in you because you're too fat, because you're unlovable, because you're stupid, because this and this and this and this and this. And you just list off all of the reasons why somebody would not be interested in you. Why? How in the hell does that help you in any sort of way? Right? One of the things that I do whenever I get up, I've done this many times, speaking on stage, is I'll stand in front of a group of people and I'll say, everybody get your pen and paper out real quick. And I'll have a couple hundred people in the crowd and I'll say, okay, here's what I want you to do. I'm gonna give you 60 seconds. I want you to write down everything that you don't like about yourself. Everything negative, everything that's bad in your life, everything that you don't like about yourself. Just write it all down. It could be in your head. It could be something physically. It could be something that you've done in the past. I want you to just write down every possible thing that you can think that you don't like about yourself, every negative thought that comes into your head, everything that you typically say, just think all of that stuff, put it down on a piece of paper, write it all down. Let's see who can get the most. Ready, set, go. And it's insane to see this because I've done this so many times. And I let them go for 60 seconds. And people are writing, like they're basically scribbling, like they're writing so fast because they have so many things that they can write down. They're writing and writing and writing and writing. It looks like they're trying to literally tear through the paper. There's sometimes there's so many things. And I'm like, how many did you get? Raise your hand if you got more than 20. Everyone's hand goes up. Raise your hand if you got more than 30. Everyone's hand stays up. Keep your hands raised if you did more than 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. And then usually we'll get to around 60, 70 things is the person who got the most, right? And I say, okay, let's try something else. I'm gonna give you 60 seconds. I want you to write down every single thing that you love about yourself. Ready, set, go. And the blank stare that I get on people's faces is eye-opening because people are looking at me like, I don't know a whole lot of things. And then they write down a couple things. And then you can literally see the average person has like 4 things on their paper that they come up with that they love about themselves. 5 things they come up with. 6 things. The most will get like 17 that they love about themselves, when the other way around, the most they had was like 80 of the things that they hate about themselves. Right? Just think about that for a second. How crazy is that people, and the reason why is because people are not usually focusing on what it is they love about themselves. They're usually focusing on the things that they hate about themselves, the things that they don't enjoy. What's that going to do for you? Right? We're always focusing on what we don't have, what we're not good at. It's crazy to see it because you can literally see in someone's face as they're writing, oh my gosh, I don't know any. I put up a picture the other day and it was a quote on my Instagram, and it said, the quote said, if I told you to write down all of the things that you love, how long would it take until you named yourself? And so many people responded, that wouldn't even have popped into my head, right? So we get caught up in who we are, who we're not. We compare ourselves to everybody else, right? Comparison is the thief of all joy. You don't love your body because you're looking at somebody on Instagram. You tell yourself you have a fat ass because you're comparing yourself to some Photoshop model on Instagram. You don't have the same butt that she does, right? You talk trash to yourself because you procrastinate and you just happen to see a picture of one of your friends from high school who just bought a massive house. So then you start comparing yourself and how you're not good enough, and you procrastinated earlier today, and I bet he didn't procrastinate or she didn't procrastinate to be able to buy that house. But look at me, there I am again, just procrastinating, right? You're pissed off because you're driving a 20-year-old Kia and you're thinking about the 18-year-old millionaire that just became a millionaire off of Bitcoin, putting up pictures on Instagram of his new Lamborghini, right? So you're looking at what you have and don't have, and you're comparing it with what other people have or don't have, which might not even be a true reality, which is the craziest part about it, right? But I want you to realize this, where you are right now is where you are. It is a fact. You are nowhere else. You are where you are. All of the things that you've done in the past, all the things you've thought, all the action you take have gotten you to exactly where you are right now. There's nothing that you can do to change that. The only thing that you can change is from right now, moving forward. And here's the thing. I do know one thing. It's a lot harder to get motivated to go to the gym. It's a lot harder to get motivated to stop procrastinating. It's a lot harder to do the things that you need to do in order to create the life that you want when you feel like crap. It is. Like if I don't feel good, it's hard to get myself motivated to go to the gym. It's hard to get myself to not procrastinate when I don't feel good. When you don't feel good, you don't take action. And guess what talking trash to yourself does? It makes you feel like shit. Nobody's ever been like, man, I'm so glad that I spent about 35 minutes talking shit to myself today because it really motivated me to go to the gym. Very rarely does anybody get stoked about life. Oh yeah, I felt really good when I started comparing myself to that 18-year-old Bitcoin millionaire. Whatever it is that's going on, right? So you have to realize, and think about it this way, how do you feel when someone is telling you how great you are, how much better your body looks than it did last month, right? How proud of you they are, how much they love you. When someone tells you those types of things, how does that make you feel? Not what do you think about it? How does it make you feel? Internally, physically, in your body, how does it make you feel when someone is saying amazing things about you? Imagine if you had someone in your ear all day, every day, telling you about how amazing you are, about who you are, about what you could be, about what you could create. Wouldn't that be a lot better than having someone talk trash in your ear all day long? Tell you about how you're not good enough, how you're worthless, how you're not smart enough, pretty enough, got chunky legs, whatever it is that you tell yourself, right? You've got to be your biggest fan. Because here's the thing, no one else is going to be your biggest fan if you're not. You're either your biggest fan or your biggest critic. So I want to ask you, which one are you? Are you biggest fan or are you your biggest critic? Because if you're your biggest critic, it's going to be really hard to be motivated to create the life that you want. Do you know why? Because when you're your biggest critic and you're talking trash to yourself, you feel like shit. And when you feel like shit, you don't get motivated to go do things. When you don't feel good, you don't take action. So you get what you focus on. What are you focusing on? Are you focusing on the improvements that you've made since last year? Or are you focusing on you're still not where you want to be? You focusing on the fact that you've lost 10 pounds? Or are you focusing on the fact that you still need to lose 20? Think about that. And it's something that we've all done. We've all done this. This is something that every human deals with in some sort of way. Let me give you a tip on something that would help you that I've done before. And this is a little ceremony that you could do for yourself, for your fears, your limiting beliefs, for all the trash that you think to yourself. I want you to take a pen and paper. I want you to write down everything that you say to yourself. All of the trash, all of the things that you want to get rid of, all the things you want to release, all the things that you say to yourself that you no longer want to say to yourself, everything that holds you back, all of those things. I want you to write down all of the things that hold you back in some sort of way. Okay? All the ways you talk to yourself. Then I want you to make a massive list of all of your fears, all the things that you're worried about, other people's opinions, rejection, failure. Write it all down, as much as you could possibly think of. Then I want you to write down your limiting beliefs, all of the things that you think are truly holding you back, but in reality, they don't even exist most of the time. Write it all down. I want you to write down every single thing that you could possibly think of. And I know the majority of you listening are not going to do this. I'm realistic. I understand that. But what I do want you to do, for the 5% of you that do this, is to actually do this and take time. Because I promise you, it'll help you out a lot. Then what I want you to do is I want you to look at the list of all those things. And I want you to thank all of them. Thank those things that you've said to yourself. Thank those fears. Thank those limiting beliefs. Have a moment of, they got you to where you are, but they're no longer going to serve you, and you're going to live the rest of your life without them. You're going to live the rest of your life without those thoughts. You're going to live the rest of your life without those fears. You're going to live the rest of your life without those limiting beliefs. What I want you to do, actually, I'm not going to recommend this because I don't want anybody burning their house down. But what I would do, I'll just say it that way, what I have done in this situation is to look at all of those things and to then take it, light it on fire, and then throw it inside of a trash can, like a metal trash can. I've done it that way. And I've also done it inside of a sink before, because sinks are usually metal, right? And literally watch those things burn away and realize that's how much they actually physically exist in this world. They don't need to be with you any longer in the future. And let go of them, because you're either your biggest fan or your biggest critic. The more that you build yourself up, the more confidence that you have. The more confidence that you have, the more that you will step confidently into the future that you want to create. So, you would never talk to yourself the way that you would never talk to someone that you love the way that you talk to yourself. So, from this moment on, start to be more aware of the thoughts that you have, the things that you say about yourself. And if you see something pop up that you don't like, change it in that moment. Switch to the thought that you would prefer to have about yourself. And that is the way that you build yourself up, and also the way that you're going to have more self-confidence, the way that you're going to talk to yourself, the way that you're going to love yourself at a deeper level.